period of perfect strangers. And after that, we got into a bit of a struggle, and the same old problems started to emerge.
It's always worked on stage, and you know, even though Richie and Ian Gillan have no love for each other at all, I mean, I think it's pretty now, it's a lost cause trying to put those two in the same city, let alone the same band. You know, they still have immense respect for each other on stage. I mean, Richie will still say that nobody has ever made him laugh like Ian Gillan did on stage. Sometimes he was hilarious.
This incarnation of Deep Purple, they called me up and said, do you want to come up and have a sing with the band? But before I joined the band, there were certain restrictions and conditions that I felt had to be met. You know, one, it was I'm not just going to come in the band and sing somebody else's drivel. You know, it's just not me anymore. I can't do it. And I wasn't going to try and emulate Ian Gillan, because I really no want or desire to emulate Ian Gillan. I think he's a great artist, but I'm not him. You know, and I don't want to replace him. People say, you know, I've got big shoes to fill, and I say, I'm making my own footsteps, you know, my own footprints.
The plan is, I think at the moment, to get through to 1993 and then just see where we stand.
I think you always go forward. People say, well, what direction are you going in? You always go forward. You're never really in a rut, and I practice quite a lot. So I know I'm going forward. I might not be playing scintillating solos, but I'm playing to the best of my ability. And it's pleasing to me, which is the main thing. And I hope other people catch on to that.
I still get butterflies. I still get nervous before a concert. I hope that continues. I want to play until 1993, so that we see that 25th anniversary. I think that'll be fun. To stand on stage and say, right, it's 25 years, a quarter of a century. It's quite amazing.
Is scheduled to take place next week in the Grand Canyon. A previously unknown acrobatic daredevil named Group Ape, or Grape Ape, or, well, whatever, will attempt to cross the canyon on a wire 1 inch in diameter, hopping across on one hand. All experts agree that this exploit is absolutely impossible. Good luck, Mr. Group Ape. Grape Ape.
With those girls, we're dead pigeons. Then we'll have to do the dance.
My baby wears red silk stockings, as all her girlfriends do. And when we dance, she's got to dance like all her girlfriends do. Monkey see, monkey do. Monkey see, monkey do. Monkey see, monkey do. Monkey see, monkey do. She's got to be in that clique, and all that jive just makes me sick. Monkey see, monkey do. Monkey see, monkey do. There's a brand new spot just south of town.
Why is it that some colleges have nice quiet traditions like panty raids or seeing how many people they can get into a telephone booth? Brooksley has to put on a show every year with guys playing girls.
A brand new car. She's got to go first class and on, cause all her girlfriends are monkey see, monkey do, monkey see, monkey do, monkey see, monkey do, monkey see, monkey do. You gotta be in that clique.
Okay, everybody up.
Danny, you're not going to get in trouble with the college for this, are you?
If I do, I'm liable to be the first postgraduate dropout in history.
In that case, my baby can buy his own college.
Hey, come on. Okay, girls, it's open.
Now, monkey. Jump off a bridge or out of an aeroplane. Took a rocket to
How's everything going, okay?
You
made it, huh? Yeah, I got lots of time. Boy, you guys gotta close. Hey, come on, come on, come on. Frank, move. Shh.
You're never going to get away with it, you know.
What?
When the dean finds out you're using showgirls, forget it.
Look, we had to have a chorus line. You know that. You saw how those guys danced in rehearsal. At least these girls dance like girls.
I wish they danced like guys.
monkey see, monkey do, monkey see, monkey do.
Nice going, Charlie.
Thanks. Wish you guys would have been here earlier.
Hey, Tess, you're on.
Wish us luck.
Did you come to be involved in the first place with Pink Floyd?
Well, I'd met Sid at Cambridge. In fact, I was at Cambridge, studied there, and I'd got a scholarship to go to the Slade to paint. So I stayed on for a year. And it was in my house where I was staying that Sid, in fact, used to come and practice. He wasn't, they weren't yet the Pink Floyd. I think he was having an affair with the daughter of the people in the house. I used to spend all my time climbing over the various pop stars in the front hall. Pop stars, I say, they weren't stars by that time, but they were practicing all the regular stuff like Chuck Berry and this and that and the other. And I had a studio there and I listened to my music, but I mean, that's how I first met Sid. And my assistant, who became my filmmaker with me, was also a painter. We were all painters at that time, and they both had an exhibition in Cambridge. And so I knew him from then, which is obviously why I kept in touch.
What were your views of the early Pink Floyd? I mean, did you have any sense that we were witnessing the birth of one of the great supergroups of later years?
I would say exactly the opposite. I mean, I was the first person ever to record the Pink Floyd, and it cost me £68.
Hope you kept the tape.
Well, only by chance. And the only reason was because I knew, I'd known Sid in Cambridge. I was making a film about London, which eventually became called Tonight Let's All Make Love in London. I regularly went to UFO, and I was in touch with the Floyd and various people around them. They were the only people who were doing anything particularly interesting in that kind of a way in London at that time.
It sounds like a lot of plinking around now compared to the stuff that they do, the stuff that they've become famous for. It sounds extremely unstructured, noodly kind of playing. But what was your view of it as music? Or perhaps you thought it was more conceptual than that?
I thought it was very good. I mean, I wasn't interested in pop music. The reason why I liked it was because it was much more like jazz. I could see sort of classical influences. There was sort of metaphysical science fiction thing. But the real reason was my film was basically at that time going to be about what was happening. And what was happening at that time was sex, drugs, protest, whatever else you want to say about the 60s, that was what was happening. But if you wanted to get the music and the various things, it was only happening in UFO. And the people who were doing the right kind of music at that time were the Pink Floyd.
UFOs does seem to be a particularly special place, a place whose name has sort of become legendary now. I mean, were you aware of it as being a particularly unique centre at the time?
Yes, it was unique. One did not consider in the 60s that you were part of a very large group of people, even in London. You considered yourself to be a very small minority, which is again why I never assumed they would become important. I thought it was, you know, my old pal from Cambridge doing some rather laid-back stuff, which I found interesting because it was conceptual, because it was more like jazz, it was an improvisation. See, when you're drugged, if you're on acid all the time, and psilocybin and mescaline and goodness knows what else, you don't really want to go along to a club necessarily and listen to Chuck Berry. Yeah. You know, 2 minutes 76 seconds and bang, bang, bang. Their music was absolutely grew out of that experience. You went there to perceive a new kind of space and time, you know, without being too pretentious. Yeah. And their music from that point of view was absolutely ideal and very highly original. But one would not have assumed it would go middle class and mainstream. In fact, that was the very thing you would not have assumed. And that is why I wanted to use them in my film, because I thought they were very exceptional.
But you filmed other people who perhaps in some ways were less exceptional and strange, but equally famous to posterity. We're now going to look at some of the film that Peter Whitehead made of the Rolling Stones live at the Royal Albert Hall in 1967. Rolling Stones and Standing in the Shadows, filmed live at the Royal Albert Hall in 1967 by our guest Peter Whitehead. Peter, you've earned this enviable tag as a documentarist of the 60s. That you weren't simply making films of rock bands, you in a sense were kind of recording what was going on.
Yes, the first film that I'd made, which led into the pop thing, was a film I made at the Albert Hall of the famous International Poetry Incarnation, it was called, where 7,000 hippies, as they were suddenly called, turned up to hear a poetry reading. This was in July 1965. That film, in fact, did very well. It won the gold medal at the Mannheim Film Festival. It was the very first event in London at that time when everyone came out of the woodwork and suddenly appeared dressed up in strange gear, listening to a load of beat poets stand out of their minds. That was, for me, the initial experience of trying to film what was going on socially, culturally, or whatever you want. It was thanks to that film that I was introduced to Andrew Oldham. And he said, would you like to film the Rolling Stones?
And did you like filming the Rolling Stones?
It was an incredible experience. I mean, I met Andrew on Monday, and he said, aren't you the guy who runs around with a camera on his shoulder and nothing else and no lights and just a guy with a sound and you know, you can go anywhere and film in the dark and all this kind of thing? And I said, well, not quite, but I mean, yes, in principle, cinema verite. It was very new then, you know. I mean, now we see it all the time, camcorders. This was very original to have a camera. Yeah. And he said, would you like to film the Rolling Stones? And I said, well, fine, it's all right by me. I don't think I'd ever heard a Rolling Stones record at the time. I was listening to Janacek and Bartok and Wagner. This was on Monday, and he said, well, come to me tomorrow and we'll talk about it. He presumably had to square it out with Mick. I arrived on Tuesday. He said, OK, we're going to Ireland on Friday. How much do you need? Would £2,000 be enough? Fine. 9 o'clock here on Friday morning.
Well, talk about been there, done that. There was a man who had a past.
Fascinating, wasn't he? And that hair.
It was extraordinary. His experiences in the 60s, I mean, he crammed such a lot into 3 years, and this sense in which he wasn't even that interested in it. You know, he didn't like that kind of music, but he got the job anyway.
No, but he dismissed it so eloquently, I thought.
Oh, yeah. He was great.
Man.
And his video, the Pink Floyd London 66-67, is out on Monday. Now, Pink Floyd 1994 style and High Hopes.
And it's down 4.
Well,
always dug Eric Burden. To me, he was the first guy to come along out of that British blues invasion with the Stones and all that, which with the Stones, they had authentic roots, but they were doing it pretty pop, you know? But Eric Burden, he had some hits, but he wasn't doing it pop, man. He was like screeching and yelling from the get-go, you know, and singing a little bit deeper tunes.
Now this is the story of the animals in the rock and roll scene in general. They made some records that enabled them to travel far physically, but much further mentally. First was Alan Price and old John Steele. Now there's Rover and Jenkins, but it's still the same feel. They made many friends, good and bad. Even made people happy while they were sad. The road wasn't easy, my friend, that's no lie. Now watch the heroes as they die. Watch the heroes as they die. I said watch the heroes as they die.
The Animals drummer, John Steele, was a student, along with myself, at the Newcastle College of Art and Industrial Design. From the very first morning of class, I was sitting in the classroom and I heard a voice from three chairs away, you know, like, is anybody interested in jazz, you know? And I put my hand up and turned around and John Steele was sitting there.
We started talking music and movies and, you know, hit it off straight away with the same interests and things. And we got a band together pretty well straight away. And we played a gig at a church hall in Byker, Headlam Street, doubling up with another band. And the guitarist from this other band, the band was led by a guy on keyboards, you know, sort of Jerry Lee Lewis player. And the guitarist came up to us during an interval. And this was Alan Price. He said, do you mind if I sit in on piano? And, you know, there was the old upright piano there. And so he sat in with us and played a storm, and we thought, ooh, I like this, you know.
All the press releases on the Animals have always been like the Alan Price combo was the basis of the Animals, and that I joined the Alan Price combo, which is really not true. I mean, it's just that there was a series of bands.
I always remember when he said the name of the band was the Alan Price Combo, and I thought, Christ, what's the Alan Price Combo? You know, because bands at them days, well, like the Wildcats, the Cadillacs, and really sort of hard names. This sounded to me like a bunch of old men, you know. I was totally amazed at the first time I saw Eric performing.
singer. He was a natural sort of blues shouter, I thought. He's never trained himself to sing properly. He just sings naturally.
Eric sounded like he was really singing, but still had the rough and tough sound. And you only get that through age, through singing and screaming and beating your voice up. And if you're real young, you smoke enough cigarettes and drink enough whiskey, it sounds like that early. But then when you're 25, you can't sing anymore. So Eric had that at a young age. He had that sound. And it impressed me. I said, yeah, this is the real stuff.
To work the gigs with the band, you had to work for Mike Jeffrey in those days because he owned the two best venues in town.
He always wore dark glasses and dark suit. You know, he was secret agent man right from the get-go, and made no bones about it.
We played almost exclusively for Mike. We would play 4 nights a week at the Go-Go. We'd play maybe a Friday night at the Downbeat. And then on a Saturday night, we'd play the early session at the Go-Go.
But the first one was a Downbeat, and it was such a hole, you know. It was a cellar 3 floors up.
It was great fun. I mean, the place was jumping, it was heaving with people. There's condensation streaming down the walls, you know. So it was a lot of fun. It was good fun, but it was just, you know, local. We didn't really think in terms of national success or making records. And then Mike started to get really busy. Mike Jeffries suddenly came up and started saying, look, we've got to get this thing organised properly. Sign here. This is a management contract. So we said, oh, wow, what do we get for this? You know, and he said, well, I think I can get you some work in London. We said, where do we sign? Ding, ding, ding. And we all just signed like that.
So we all came to this point of realizing that music was a way out, and the fastest way out. And even though Mike Jeffries was a criminal, we all knew he was bent. We didn't care. He was our ticket out of town, and so we took it for what it was.
In this dirty old part of the city, where the sun refused to shine, yeah. People tell me there ain't no use in trying, yeah. Now, my girl, you're so young and pretty, and one thing I know is true, yeah. You'll be dead before your time is due. I know it. What's my daddy in bed tonight? His hair been turning gray, yeah. Been working and slaving his life every night and day. Yes, I know it, baby. I've been working too hard. Everything I got for you, we gotta get out of this place. If it's a life to be had, we gotta get out of this place. Girl, there's a better life for me and you.
A song called "We Gotta Get Out of This Place." The first time I heard that, I mean, I almost get goosebumps just to talk about it now, because I came from a place, Fontana, which was like a steel town. It was probably like Birmingham or Newcastle, you know, in England, relative. You know, steel town. Everyone worked at the steel mill. It was dirty. You know, the air was bad. You smelled the steel mill every night. You smell that sludge coming out of there. And you know, it's like you figure when you grow up, you're either gonna work at that steel mill, like your dad coming home black, you know, dirty, man, it's coal all over him, you know, soot, and you think you're either gonna work there or you gotta get out of this place, man. And that song hit home real big to me.
At the end of '63, Mike had gone to London, made a sort of reciprocal arrangement with the manager of the Yardbirds. They came up and did all the gigs that we normally did in the Northeast. We went down and played a lot of their gigs. It was bye-bye Newcastle, London bound, you know. And we never went back, really. First tour we actually did was organised for us by Don Arden, Peter Grant was working for Don Arden as a booker at the time, and he booked all our gigs in, and Don had got Chuck Berry, you know, which was a really big deal to us. We worshipped Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry was definitely one of our heroes, and we would have signed anything to get on that tour.
Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins, Tommy Tucker, Nashville Teens, King Size Tale on the Dominoes, and they were just incredible experiences.
You can imagine traveling on a little English bus from town to town with Chuck Berry and Jerry Lee Lewis on the same tour bus. I mean, you had a whole microcosm of America's problems on one tour bus, you know. One crazed Ku Klux Klan, gun-carrying, you know, NRA maniac was Jerry Lee, and, you know, Chuck trying to be, you know, surviving in a world gone mad, you know. And the two of them were at each other's throats, man, day and night, you know. In those early tour buses, the seats were rigid, you know, individual seats. And the only stretch-out seat was in the back, you know, where you could lie down. So the road manager, Peter Grant, would say, come on, you guys, now let's be fair, you know. Jerry Lee, you had the seat last night. Chuck's got to have the seat tonight. Anyway, Chuck's just gone into the charts at number 43, so that makes him rank bigger than you, you know. So he gets the back seat tonight. And Lee Lewis would say, man. And he'd reach for this Colt 45 and a shoulder house, and his road manager would, I mean, they were crazy, you know. And then Chuck would come on the bus with his conch rag tied around his head and his guitar, you know, and he'd try to walk with dignity to the back of the bus, you know, and then he'd be a snide remark like, yeah, get to the back of the bus, nigga, where you belong, and all of a sudden, you know, and guys would jump at that, and there'd be a big pile up on the bus, man, people fighting each other and banging their heads against the windows and everything. It was wild. And that was before we even got to America. You can't out-rock Chuck Berry, you know. You can't do Johnny Be Good better than he does. You can't, you know, there's no way. So there was this song called House of Rising Sun that we've been doing for quite some time.
We had a tremendous amount of difficulty convincing our manager and Mickey Morse that we should record it. And they took the attitude, well, it's a waste of money. If you're going to record it, you've got to be at the studio 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, the day.
So it was virtually a live performance. We ran through it halfway for balance, and then made a take, one single take, and that was it.
There is a house in New Orleans. They call the rising sun. And it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. In God, I know I'm one. My mother was a tailor. Sold my new blue jeans. My father was a gambling man down in New Orleans.
We recorded House of Rising Sun in such a hurry. There was such a rush on it, so we printed it and shipped it immediately. And I remember Mike Jeffries calling a conference. So he comes into the room and he goes, fellas, we've only got one problem. He says, we've got to print up this record label really quick. And he says, there's not enough room on the label for everybody's name. And you all did arrange it, didn't you? And we all went, yeah. So what we'll do is we'll elect one person and we'll put one name on, and then, you know, we'll work it out later, okay? And we went, yeah, okay. And Who? Well, how about Alan? Okay, so Alan Price's name went on there, you know, traditional arrangement, Alan Price.
And if anybody should have the credit, it was Hilton, really, but it's history now. And if you ask Alan today, he'll say with absolute sincerity and that he did the arrangement because he believes that now, but that's not the case.
Oh, mother, tell your children not to do what I have done. Spend your lives in sin and misery in the house of the rising sun.
Management team, give me a break. I mean, the animals were ripped off from the get-go.
Mike Jeffries convinced us we had to work with Mickey Most. We didn't find out till 5 years later one of the reasons why he convinced us to work with Mickey Most was because he made a deal with Mickey Most for him and Mickey Most to share in the money.
I remember at one point in time, there was a guitar solo needed for a certain tune, and the guitar solo wasn't up to scratch. And he said, the take was perfect, except for the guitar solo. We'll have to do it again. And Charles leant over and tapped him on the shoulder and said, Mickey, there's 4 tracks, man. You can mix it in. You don't have to do the guitar solo again. And he went, oh, I didn't realize that. You know, here's this guy's reckoned to be mega producer, and he didn't even know you could overdub.
You would go to America and sort of hunt around and get obscure stuff and bring it back and say, what do you think of that, you know?
Hey, like some old piece of rag that's a faded and blue. Like some old piece of rag, that's all I am to you.
Mickey Most was a good picker of material, you know? He had a good ear for potentially commercial, successful songs, you know.
He found us, we got to get out of this place. He found It's My Life.
There'll be women and their fortunes who just want to further orphans. Are you gonna cry when I'm squeezing them dry? Taking all I can get, no regrets. When I open the line and they want their money, believe me, honey, that money, can you believe? I ain't no shame, no complaints, so go out, hand it down, and baby, remember, it's my life and I do what I want. It's my mind and I think what I want. Serve your song, curse of time. Someday I'll treat you real fine. All right, sing it, baby. It's my life and I'll do what I want. It's my mind and I'll think what I want.
They tried to prune us and tune us down and dress us up like the Beatles. And we were told, you're off to America, behave yourselves. Even a choreographer was brought in. Ridiculous, you know what I mean? And I resented every minute of it.
I dug the fact that he wasn't a pretty boy. He always had the unkept, I don't give a shit look about him. The Stones were always very fashionable and stuff, you know, but Eric Burton, he had this funk about him that, for me, it made me think that he was honest. I thought, this guy doesn't give a shit. He just wants to go out there and sing, you know.
When they booked us in America, they said, look, you've got to stop looking like a bunch of scruffs. You've got to sort of smarten yourself up because America just won't accept you. You know, they said, look at the Beatles, look at the success they've had, you know, with those lovely little suits with the velvet collars and the mop-top haircut, you know. And we let ourselves be talked into it. And it was always a mistake, because when the Stones went over there, they just tore the place apart because they looked, you know, the thing about would you let your daughter marry a Rolling Stone?
Times Square welcomes the Animals in person, and the young Englishman will be around for a while filming an MGM movie in Manhattan.
All I wanted to do was escape.
Teenage magic so hard to explain to some grown-ups.
I remember being on the 43rd floor of this mega glass tower in New York City. You know, it was like 30 below zero outside, and we're looking at a wall of, cold, white-faced agents and managers and record company executives and lawyers in their business suits and with dollar signs in their eyes. And I'd escape every night and go up to Harlem. I'd ensconce myself in the Apollo. I made friends with the manager, Honey Coles. He told me, hey, anytime you want to come here, man, the place is yours, you know. So I spent more time up in the Apollo and met B.B. King, Rufus Thomas, Big Maybelle, Chuck Jackson, the Shirelles, Dionne Warwick, and was around to take a lot of photographs and get to know them personally. And
the first people I was into were black singers as well, because for some reason I think, and it's probably the same situation with Eric, is that when you come from a more of a lower class situation, which I did, you know, a little poorer family, then you relate to people when they sing and the stuff they're talking about that are struggling. You don't relate to the rich guys.
So, you know, everybody else was just doing pop covers and things like that. We were doing stuff by then very obscure people, you know, Jimmy Reed and Muddy Waters and John Lee Hooker and Bo Diddley, things like that. You know, people hadn't even heard of these guys.
I wanted to see Nina Simone all my life because ever since I heard her voice, I reckoned that she was the proudest, blackest, most talented female in America, if not in the world, you know. She was a tigress as far as I was concerned.
Baby, do you understand me now? If sometimes I seem to be mad, but don't you know that no one alive can always be in danger? But when things go wrong, I seem to be mad. I'm just a soul whose intentions are good. Oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood. Sometimes I'm so carefree with a joy that's hard to hide. And then again it seems that all I have to do is worry, and then you're bound to see my other side. But I'm just a soul whose intentions are good. Oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood.
We were just about to begin a writing career, Alan and I, when I guess the first checks came in for House of Rising Sun. So we were just starting to sit down around the piano and we're doing things like Inside Looking Out, I'm Crying, things like that. We're just starting to write together and stretch out like the other bands were, like the Stones were, and like the Beatles already had. The writing didn't go any further because he just disappeared. He took off with Bob Dylan and joined Bob's circus.
Cold water's running through my brain, and they take me back to work again, yeah. Pains and blisters on my minds and my hands, from working daily with those canvas bags, yeah. The thoughts of freedom, they're driving me wild. I'll be happy like a newborn child. We'll be together, girl, just wait and see, yeah.